to heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this week.
Thanks. It's good to be back. Sorry to miss last week.
Hey, it happens. Next, we've got Peter. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Hey, it's good to be back. Sorry I missed last week.
It happens. Steve, welcome as the loyal platooner to me. No.
You should have said the same thing anyways, Steve.
Yeah.
Glad to be back.
Yeah. Please like, subscribe, share. That way you'll never miss any of the stuff we've got coming up, including the 2023 Toonies that are coming that you'll get more about information about later in the show. Okay. This week, Loki season 2 had its finale. Now, I know Confused Kate has made a reoccurrence. So, what are your questions, Kate?
So I was right there with everything until the second to last episode, which you all watched last week. And then this final episode, I don't particularly understand the whole creepy Stranger Things type thingies. I don't understand why Sylvie getting rid of the timekeeper or whatever. Don't get that. I don't understand what Loki did when he went into the little thingy and was grabbing all the green things. I just don't. I also aren't we supposed to hate Kang? Isn't he supposed to be the big bad? I don't hate him. In fact, because of this series, I almost empathize with him because he came off, when he was the Frederick Douglass type guy, he came off very good. I'm just very confused.
Right.
Okay.
So think of him. So you know how Sylvie is also a Loki variant, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same person, but they're both Lokis, sort of. You're seeing different versions of Kang here. So Victor Timely is a different variant. He's a different person. Okay. He's not a bad guy. He who remains is sort of a bad guy, but
that's up for debate. But anyway,
not really. So you really got to watch Ant-Man to see a bad version of Kang.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens in the last episode, Kate? Basically, Loki can control his time slipping and figures out that they have to do it faster or earlier of sending Victor Timely into the time loom. And so he essentially repeats it and repeats it and repeats it and repeats it infinitely almost, including centuries, until they can finally figure out when to send it so he can actually shoot the multiplier or whatever it is into the time loom and then realizes that doesn't work anyway because the time loom was essentially a great big red herring.
The time loom is designed to fail and reset. And this is not the first time it's done it. It's happened before.
And so then Loki goes to the end and realizes, okay, maybe we need to kill maybe we need to keep he who remains alive And so he has to stop Sylvie from killing him, and he can't, because he knows that in order to stop her from killing He Who Remains, he has to kill Sylvie, and he can't kill Sylvie.
Can't do that, right?
So he ends up understanding, though, what his true glorious purpose is to hold together time and to hold together all of these different timelines and give them the energy they need to be successful and multiply into, and I can't remember that tree image you see there at the end.
That's like a Norse.
It's actually from Norse mythology that's how life goes. You saw it's in one of the animated Spider-Man movies. It's very much he essentially has taken over from He Who Remains, and now Loki is giving his energy to all of these timelines and being the god to hold all of time together.
So is He Who Remains good now?
Well, He Who Remains is actually not He Who Remains anymore, because you see in the last episodes that the different variants of Kang don't know that the TVA exists yet, because by Loki taking over, Kang never actually created the TVA.
Well,
or that version of the TVA.
Or that version of the
TVA. Yeah. So, and the other thing to point out here is that Loki did what He Who Remains wanted him to. If you remember the end of season 1, he wanted Sylvie and Loki to take over,
right?
The
take over the throne,
TVA,
but
he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it in the current way, which was pruning the timelines, because it was killing millions of people. So he found a solution where he could recreate the TVA and have them, rather than prune the timelines,
basically keeping an eye out for Kang.
Right. So the TVA still existed without killing all the timelines.
Right.
Like he figured out a way to make it, because he was like, well, if I can't keep it the way it is, what can I do to make it better? Now, how he made it better, we don't really understand, other than he gathered. I mean, it's kind of sad, actually, though, because
but and then, so Mobius goes and watches a couple, like, it's one of those almost like It's a Wonderful Life type thing, where he watches what his life could have been in that scenario,
right?
Essentially. And Sylvie is still very much aware of what Loki has done and what Loki is doing, but she's not real sure where we don't know where she ends up. Renslayer ends up at the end of time type thing, getting ready to be eaten by the Balrog or whatever they call it. And
yeah, but what was the thing that the leaves pushed and it showed?
That's how you knew it was the end of time, is because that was inside.
It was the TVA. Yeah, it was still the TVA. It was just destroyed because it was the end of time.
Right.
It is all very but think of that. So that last episode was very much like Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Right? He just kept trying to do things over.
Yeah, I totally got that. Yeah. I picked up on that. I picked up on that part.
So now that we kind of have an idea what happened, what
do we know?
Well, 3 of us do. I'd even say 3.5. Drink another glass of wine and you might be with us.
Got it. I'm working on it.
What about this series and this season of the series showed its glorious purpose? What did you like about the series, Pete?
So I did very much enjoy this series. To me, I wasn't surprised where they got to at the end, but across the 6 episodes, I thought the way they told the story was very interesting. I thought, as far as someone who gets really annoyed with time travel, I thought they did the time looping pretty well, such that I didn't see a lot of holes in it. I mean, there's always holes, but it was better than most that try to do that type of thing, I thought. So I found it very well done. I'm not sure I liked it as much as the first season. I guess I liked OB. I'm gonna say what I liked about like the new, because like the old characters were the old characters. We kind of had them. I liked Ke Kwan's OB. I kind of liked the Victor Timely. At times he was a little too quirky, but I thought overall he was pretty good. I did like I like the Alcatraz reference at the beginning of the second to last episode. Like I recognized that because I've been there, and we actually got anyways, we got a book on that, on those escapees that potentially escaped from Alcatraz. So those were like real people that were trying to escape from Alcatraz. So I liked that reference there. So yeah, overall, I felt really good about this series. I thought it was a return to form. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier. The effects were, in my view, very top notch. The special effects, and not that we should have to shout out the special effects, but after
lately in Marvel,
after the last few series, they definitely did not skimp, because there was a lot of it too. I thought the spaghettification effect was very effective, especially poor Victor Timely when he got actually, you could like see his skulls and his bones in there, and everything was like, that's almost gory. I don't know. So there was a lot I liked about it. What about you, Steve?
Like you, I liked Ke Kwan's his character Obi. I found that fascinating. The more I think about this, is since I like sort of the time travel thing of, is he actually a variant of Cain, because it's the before the egg, like when he had the book, like, is he another variant that we don't know about yet? Because since the variants can come in different forms, because that would have got me thinking. I liked in this season how each of these sort of supporting characters, we got a little bit more story about them and what made them tick, and seeing what Loki was. Like you, I liked the sort of Alcatraz, and then I totally forgot they did the same thing with Loki with DB Cooper in season 1.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I liked that. I felt like overall for this character Loki, it was a nice story arc. Like how we first were introduced to Loki in the first Marvel movies until now. If you follow Marvel, I thought that was sort of a nice connections. Those are the things that really stood out for me. I liked that last episode. Like you said, sort of a Marvel Groundhog Day of, I liked the fast pacing of it and things going on, even though, like Derek said, you could predict where it was going to end up. But that last ending sequence was like done really well. Like the music, everything, just nice visual. How about you, Derek?
And I will say, for the record, I called Loki taking over, branching up all the different timelines and taking over the throne and all that. I called that last week. So I've become kind of the Disney Plus series whisperer. This is like 2 or 3 in a row that I've been able to call the ending on.
We're just gonna call you Mr. Spoiler.
Not enough downforce. So anyway, what worked for me is the fact that I have a feeling with where the Marvel Universe is going, we could never see these characters again, and it would be just fine. In that this essentially told between season 1 and this, it essentially told a complete story. So, or it could be a complete story. You could stop and never, and from some of his interviews, Tom Hiddleston has basically said, yeah, I'm done playing Loki. So this could be the end of Loki in this version of the MCU. And it's actually brought in closure. And yes, he's just sitting there giving his energy to all of these as Loki God, which yes is apparently his new variant of this is called Loki God or God Loki in the merchandising end of it, because let's never forget Disney championed merchandise tie-ins. So yeah, I liked the last episode. I liked yeah, the visuals were okay. Some of the visual effects compared to what we have had were amazing. And the fact that you didn't have to think, yes, you knew it was a visual effect, but you didn't have to think, oh, okay, that's what they're trying to do with that visual effect. So now, do I have some issues with it? Of course, it's me and Marvel. Kate, what did you like about this?
Yeah. So we're talking the series this season as a whole, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So there were parts of this season that I really, really liked. I really liked the time travel in that they like went back to a certain date. Like, oh, this let's actually go to this year. I think this year is gonna be better. I like that. I actually really enjoy time travel shows. Think shows like there's a show called Timeless, 12 Monkeys, Doctor Who, shows that have time travel where you go back to a certain era. I like that. Actually also enjoy, and this was a part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think, Pete, you might, I don't know if you got to this season or not, where it's exactly what Loki did, where Quake goes back and just over and over and over and over and over, and they do it thousands of times, where she goes back and tries
stopped watching it by then, I think.
Okay, it's actually a really good episode, but I enjoy shows like this. This show confused me, and I'm so frustrated because I like thinking that like I'm really good at reading shows, but I also didn't have my husband to be there telling me what was going on, and breaking it down for me. The music was really, really the music, if you were listening to the background music, was really good, especially in the episodes where they went back in time. Loved that. They had the Marvel theme song, like in jazz swing style. Tom Hiddleston is just so freaking talented. I liked it. It's probably it wasn't as good as WandaVision to me, but it wasn't as bad as She-Hulk.
Or Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion, that's a better one. Because I actually didn't mind She-Hulk. The CGI was so bad. But yeah, it was good. I just wish that I could have followed the storyline just a tiny bit different, or a tiny bit easier. And Derek, unlike you, I did not know where this was going. I literally was like, we have 40 minutes left in this. And I don't know what they're doing. Because also it's kind of like Thanos in all of the other movies where you knew they weren't going to kill him because you knew that he was the bad. And so you knew they weren't going to kill him in like the first movie. So I knew that the time rover, that's the dinosaur ride. You couldn't kill him because
Professor Seeker?
Yes. The new time rover. Sorry. Anyway. Back with one passenger, extra large. I'm sad they're closing that right. Anyway, that's me. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Now, that was, it showed the glorious purpose that Loki was seeking. But if they were still pruning parts of the timeline, if they were still pruning branches, what from this series still should have been pruned? Steve.
What should have been pruned? I'm torn about Mobius. Maybe less of him. He is probably my least favorite character out of them. I found the other characters more fascinating. I think I'd go back and prune some of the storylines that I felt like they started and never really went anywhere, or just sort of dropped off. I don't know if they were planning more seasons and they were expanding on that, but there's like but you brought this up and now it's all gone. Those were my biggest issues. I think I had a hard time since there was such a huge gap between season 1 and season 2. And I did not watch season 1 again before I watched season 2. So I think on some things I was lost on and how it all connects together. So I think I'd go back and prune some of the side stories that never went anywhere to make it a tighter show.
I can see that. For me, two things. The biggest thing that honestly made it hard to watch, oh my gosh, can we have something other than brown and orange? Oh my gosh, I get that you have a new sepia filter for your special effects stuff, but now do something else. Show me some color that's not spaghettification. So
that spaghettification, is that the weird? Okay, yeah. Got it. I just wanted to make sure I was following.
Yeah. So that was visually hard for me, just because it's one of those where, now I will say it was better lit than some of the stuff we've watched recently. I'm looking at you, Hawkeye. But
Hawkeye was great.
I mean, no, but it was dark, like visually dark, because it was all at night.
Are any of you Game of Thrones watchers? Do any of you watch Game of Thrones?
Nope.
No. Oh, the last season of Game of Thrones.
You have to pay for HBO. Are you kidding me?
That's fair. That's fair.
The other thing that bothered me was, why did season 2 have to be a full season? Why could it not have been like a movie as the second season? Because if all I saw the second season really giving us was the whole free choice and how one timeline is not just the only thing that it should be. But other than that, it just goes back to the end of the first season. Because that whole conversation is in that last episode, is where it all starts and where it all ends, is he's there and realizes, okay, I know what I have to do now. It didn't have to be 6 episodes. It could have been 4 episodes. It could have been 3 episodes. It could have been a special presentation. And as he said, there were parts of the stories that just came up and never did anything. So you should have pruned some of the stuff out of the middle. Yes, keep episode 1, sets it up. Keep episode 6, because I actually liked episode 6, but prune some of the timelines out of the middle. So, Kate, how about you?
I wish that we could have a running total of how many times Derek has said, this didn't need to be a television show. This should have just been a movie.
Just count how many series there's been, and other than WandaVision, it's all of them.
But he's also said that about a couple of Star Wars things too.
No, I have said that about just about every series. And because just about every series could have been a movie, or like a 4-episode season instead of a 9-episode season, and been tighter and cheaper, and Disney wouldn't have lost as much money, so they wouldn't have been freaking out, and therefore probably told a better story.
All right. Well, all of that to the side. I'm so glad that we all agree on that. I agree with Steve. I think that it should have taken some of the side stories and tightened them up. One example to me was the one random guy who was like, yeah, lady, I'll like in your side, and everybody else like just died. Like, what? Wait, why? Like, wait, what? So I just, I agree 100% with Steve, what Steve said. I would have liked just like a little bit more explanation. But again, that like, any show, I struggle when it comes to things like this. It takes me a little bit longer than everyone else to understand what's going on. So I guess that's not entirely the show's fault. I would have liked, I would have liked more OB. I would love a whole series just about OB, because I just think that he's fabulous. It would be very boring, and Derek would say this should be like a 30 minutes.
Well, at the same time, OB, again, if he who remains remembers everything and OB remembers everything, I can't remember which of you said that, is OB really who we think he is? Just he brings back Miss Minutes. I mean, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's opportunities there for.
That's how they could replace the actor King, because here's a variant, same person, but we could replace the actor.
Who knows how that trial's going right now? So
What trial?
I did think it was interesting. The actor that plays Kang is
under trial for sexual assault.
Has some issues. So it was interesting. I haven't seen the Marvels, but it was interesting the way that this ended, in a way that you could eliminate Kang from future stories.
Yes.
If you decided you needed to. Yeah. Because at the end of it, they say, basically, oh, there's Kang variants out there, but we're tracking them and we know where they are and blah blah blah.
Okay, right? I do have a question about that. So when they talk about something, there was an issue, but it was 616 is something completely different. 616 adjacent. I'm assuming they're talking about Ant-Man.
That was Ant-Man, and if the images weren't very good, but the folder that he showed to I forget the name of the character, Hunter 15, whatever her name is. The folder had images of Kang from Quantumania.
Okay.
So yes, that was completely Earth 616 is the MCU Earth.
It's Earth, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the MCU Earth.
Yeah.
So as far as what I didn't like, I kind of got to agree with all of you. I don't have the same issues that Derek has with wanting things to be tighter, because when you're telling a story in television, in theory, you're getting more into characters and you're getting more into side characters and things like that. So I usually don't mind that the story is stretched out if you have a good story to tell. And I thought for the most part, this was a good story to tell, but I also agree with all you guys that certain plots were just there and then just kind of stopped. As you say, the guy that was, he went to his timeline and he was the actor, and then he's captured and he comes back, and then he goes to Renslayer's side, and then he's just gone from the story. The last two episodes. Same thing with Miss Minutes. They make Miss Minutes a big kind of the big bad of the first 3.5 episodes, and then she's just gone. So it's not the smoothest writing I've ever seen. That said, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy all the episodes, so that to me, it didn't feel like filler per se, but there were some dead ends that definitely weren't the best. I would also say it took me a while to get used to this Loki, because I'm used to the arrogant god Loki, and Tom Hiddleston plays that with a lot of fun, and this was more of a
angsty,
right? He had
uncertain.
I said it, I think, in the first episode. He's a humbled Loki, and he's been humbled by the actions, and now he also is kind of dependent on his team and his friends that he never was with Thor, or that he never felt like part of that family. So he plays it as a different character. It's not quite as interesting of a character. I still very much enjoyed what Tom Hiddleston did, but I think it wasn't as interesting a version of the character as even the first season. So,
and that really rolls us into our last question for this week. Is Loki redeemed because he took on all the timelines? Because you gotta admit, early on in our experience with Loki, was not a good guy. Killed lots of people just because he wanted to. Invaded New York with these aliens that actually decided to trust him. I mean, it's just one of those, does this redeem the character of Loki? Kate, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think so. I think this whole series redeems Loki as a whole. I think one of the most powerful things actually happened in season 1 when he watched his own death and watched what happened. That scene always stuck out to me. But yeah, I think so. What about you, Pete?
I would agree. At least this version of Loki has redeemed himself. Sorry, I got a cat caught on me. It happens.
It does.
So I do think that he, this was the Loki from what Derek just described, from the first Avengers movie. The other version of Loki we've been watching through the movies didn't really ever do that much to redeem himself. I mean, he kind of at the end of Ragnarok helped Thor, but he was always on his own side.
Yes,
more or less. It's just whatever happened to work for him, and in that particular case, staying with Thor worked for him until he tried to trick Thanos. That was really the only thing he ever did in any of the previous movies that you would say maybe redeemed himself, and that was like 10 seconds and then he was killed. So I think I think this definitely was a redemption story for Loki, to turn him to a better god. So Steve?
I'd agree. I think it's even sort of more sad that most people will never know what he truly did. Like in terms of the universe. I was reading how this all goes back to the first Thor movie, and I guess Odin said something about thrones or taking power, of how all that connects back to the first movie. So I'd say yes. But again, yeah, I can't remember what it was all about, but there's a line in the first Thor movie talking about Thor and Loki ascending the throne or something, and how this actually ended up coming true, but not in the way that maybe Loki expected. So,
and see, to me, nope. I'm sorry. This I understand why he did it, but and yes, him invading brought the Avengers together, whatever, for the Battle of New York, fine. But with what he did on Asgard, and with what he did multiple times on Earth 616 and the invasion of New York, and I'm sorry, that was a weak effort to try and trick Thanos. No one was surprised that he was trying to do that, including Thanos or any of the audience, which is why it worked in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right.
So, because you got to remember, this Loki is the one directly from the Battle of New York.
Right.
So, and all of the deaths that he rained down. So, and his glorious purpose, and it's, him arguing about, I want the throne, I want the throne, I want the throne. Yes, it became, I want the throne, so he who remains does not sit on this throne. But I'm not convinced he didn't do it for the glory of being the one to save the timelines. I mean, because somewhere people know that he is the one who is holding this all together. So I'm not convinced that he did this for selfless reasons at all. And I don't think, yes, there's the saving of the people of the timelines that got pruned, but at the same time, by pruning all those timelines, he's ensuring that the multi-universal war happens. So is he really? And according to Kang, everything gets destroyed. Now, we all know that Disney will never let that happen because it wouldn't sell movie tickets. But I'm not convinced that this is a good move on his part. And I'm not convinced it's enough to make, because I still think there's going to be millions of universes that die here because Disney can't keep going super far on this if they're also going to have new Avengers and are going to potentially bring back the old Avengers if you believe the different news reports and whatever, which is this would be a way to bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man and all those characters.
I hope they don't do that, but
I hope they don't do it either, because then talk about movies that were completely wasted. And I mean, I mean, I think they're catching enough backlash from the fact that Rhodey in Endgame and all those was not the same Rhodey, was a Skrull. I mean, if you believe the end of Secret Invasion, Rhodey was the Rhodey in Endgame and all the last part of Phase 3 was not Rhodey. He was a Skrull. And I'm almost wondering if they were going to try and go all the way back to when they swapped out the actors.
Well,
no, they didn't, because they went back to where he lost the use of his legs.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, but no, to me, yes, this is a good action for him. It doesn't redeem everything that he's done. So, okay. As we always do, we rate series or seasons of series that we've watched in the Pixie Dust ratings out of 5. Kate, season 2 of Loki.
2.5.
Okay.
I like this a lot. I think I gave the first season a 5, maybe.
Yes, you did.
What did I give the first season?
You gave the first season. Gotta go way back because it's been a while since this one. Folks.
Yeah, it was one of the first things we did.
You gave the first season a 3.
Okay.
So, anyways, I would give this season a 4. I didn't quite like it as much as I really loved the first season. I did enjoy this one a lot. I, at some point, think I will go back and watch both seasons, but probably not for a little while. So, I'll give this one a 4. Steve?
Okay. And Steve, you gave the first season a 3.5.
I'm torn between a 3 and a 3.5.
Well, unlike Loki, you can't just rip it all apart, so you got to pick one.
No. I'm gonna go 3.5. Yes,
give it a 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3.5. I really enjoyed it. It could be possibly higher if the seasons were more back to back instead of this big gap, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna say 3.5.
Okay. I gave the first season a 1.5. I'm actually going to give this season a 2, just because I liked it a little bit better. I really liked the last episode. I really enjoyed the last episode because.
Can I bump mine to a 3?
No, I'm sorry. Once speaking in a forever. Yes.
This is the sacred timeline. You cannot change things.
When I think about this, the entirety of the season, I actually really did. There are certain parts of this show that I really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm gonna bump mine to a 3.
Okay. So I think in general, it was an okay season. Not an amazing show as far as overall 4 of us, but I think if you're a Marvel fan, if you've been enjoying what they've done in the MCU, I would say this is by far the best season for Marvel in years.
It's been a while. I would go back to Moon Knight. I like
Moon Knight. Yes, I actually like Moon Knight better than this. So
WandaVision's still the best.
I would agree. Oh. Visually, if nothing else, yes, and the story that it told. Mm-hmm. Okay, now normally this is where we stick in the Disney Plus news. However, there is no Disney Plus news this week. I scoured the internet and I could not find anything that we have not already talked about. So.
Did you say that the strike is over last week?
That is, yes. I can't remember if we did, but yes, the Screen Actors Guild has come to have. Kate, have they actually approved it, or is it still a temporary approval?
Last I heard it was a temporary approval, but it will probably get approved.
They haven't had the vote from the whole
guild yet.
Okay. They are still telling people what the new contract is.
Okay. And having close relationship with someone in the Screen Actors Guild, is it an improvement?
Well, he is not in the Actors Guild yet. He hopes to be at some point, but as far as we can tell, yes. From what we have heard from people who are 100% union members, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And going forward, I've sold the rights to my image, so from now on, I will be replaced by an artificial intelligence image for the rest of the series.
Guarantee I will for all future Marvel series. So, all right. Next week, it is the 25th anniversary of A Bug's Life. 25 years ago, it was the Thanksgiving release of Disney and Pixar. So, for our Thanksgiving show, we're going to be watching Bug's Life.
I'm a beautiful little butterfly.
Yes. Okay. Prep for next week. Which character do you closely identify with?
So we just covered that.
Well, yeah, yes, definitely. But for the rest of us, I mean, we shall see. As I also mentioned, be on the lookout this week for the link to the ballot for the 2023 Toonies. We did this our first season with different movies and different shows that came out during that season. Not a lot came out last year, so that's why we didn't do it. Excuse me. Not a lot good came out last year. And if we go back and look at the ratings, not a lot was good that came out in 2022. But that we covered, but 2023 has been better.
Really?
Yeah, it has. And there's been more. We've covered more things in 2023.
Okay.
So be on the lookout for that. We'll be doing a special. That will be a show that will run in December. We may even get to do that show live so you guys can actually comment in on what you guys think the shows actually did.
And I know it's a 6-episode series. Are we doing the second season of Behind the Attraction coming up?
We'll be breaking it up some, but yes, we will be covering the second season of Behind the Attraction.
So make sure you watch those if you're a Disney fan.
Yeah, I have. Pete, have you watched the second season yet?
I have not watched them yet, no.
I watched one. I watched the Indiana Jones one.
Okay. Is it similar to the first season?
If I remember, I think it's improved.
Okay.
I think it's improved. So
we shall see on that.
I've noticed the episodes are longer. Like the episodes are like 45 to 50 minutes, where I think the first season they were closer to 30
to 35. Minutes. Yeah. I think that could be good and bad. We'll see. Honestly, we'll see if it's less like a fluff commercial and more like an actual like information thing.
Yeah.
So guys, if you have suggestions, we've got some holes in January and February coming up. We need a suggestion for our Valentine's Day show, and we need a suggestion for a leap year show. So if you have suggestions for either of those, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. We have new episodes coming out every Thursday on YouTube and all the major podcasting services. For Kate, Pete, and Steve, we've got our producer Gina in the background who can't be with us this week, but will be, and we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.